Mike, you've been in the business for 40 years now.
Yeah.
What do you see as our challenges in loss prevention?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ed, and I think there's a lot of answers to that, but I think the one that really resonates with me is you think about safety in the business, safety of associates and customers. You talk about technology and solutions in technology that are present today. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to look at those technologies. How do we better fit them together, integrate those solutions, they said, somewhat in a disparate fashion today. So the work I've been doing now for the past several years is understanding how do we bring that to a reality. And EAS, which we know has its challenges for a number of reasons, but inserting that EAS system into an ecosystem, to me, is a very exciting involvement within this whole notion of an ecosystem. We were talking ecosystem back during my days at Kroger 3 years ago. I'm delighted to see it's finally coming to fruition a bit. So, your question, I could probably go on for 20 minutes with the answer, but
I think you have.
yeah, I have already. But, I was just thinking about this. You and I were chatting a bit earlier. I think between us, we've got nearly 100 years in this industry. It probably shows on our face too a little bit, and with some of the gray hairs. But what do you see as significant changes on the solution side that WG Securities is working on? What are some of the challenges that you see with the loss prevention industry and advancing technology in such a way that it becomes a force multiplier?
Well, the thing about it is that all of vendors or solution providers have been looking for one solution in stores. They're not looking for the global, ecosystem. And so the idea of developing an ecosystem so that we have other solution providers working in conjunction with each other in strategic partners, doing that is a very new idea.
Yeah.
I mean, for EAS, it's just really, we're literally a month away from being able to develop that technique. And we're really looking forward to being able to work with other solution providers to provide better information for stores.
Yeah. For me personally, I think it's a game changer. When you can take a technology like EAS that most every retailer in America is utilizing today, and you can reinvigorate it, and you can make it a part of the broader ecosystem that we've been talking about now as an industry for so long. I think that's game-changing stuff. I really do. I'm very passionate about that. I think I always will be. Let me ask you this question. If you look at the evolution of the solution provider, now that seems to be the common buzzword today. I would argue that that's still evolving. Right? As I've worked with solution providers over the years, we used to call them vendors. That sounded a bit frictional, right? Then we said, you know what? Well, let's just call them solution providers. They help us with solutions. I think it goes beyond that. I think they are actually strategic partners. And so give me your thoughts on this notion of you got to listen to me as a practitioner, because that's where I've come from recently. And I got to listen to you as a solution provider. And together, that's where you form that strategic partnership. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what we've recently started doing is with the ability to send a message to the cloud when one of our smart tags alarms, that gives us the ability to now go to other solution providers. Now that solution provider has been looking at just providing parking lot security based on cameras. If we can now send them a message that I have a real problem going on in my store right this minute, and they are willing to, as the solution provider has been, to operate their cameras through their software in order to pick up the guy when he comes out of the door, follow him to his car, get his license plate, and we start to set up a negative file for license plates in addition to possibly facial recognition. We've gone beyond the standalone vendor.
Yeah, you can't go it alone.
No.
No solution provider, strategic partner can go it alone. And I think more and more that's the realization that I think both groups are coming to. Let me ask you this one. I don't know about for you, because you were a practitioner for many years, successful practice in this field, and I'm just coming out of it. For me, a put off would be if a vendor came to me, solution provider, strategic partner, and said, boy, do I have the answer to your problem. Well, they haven't even allowed me to explain what my problems are. And what I've found is, like in working with WG, you guys took a keen interest in hearing from me when I was at the Kroger company on where are your pain points. And we want to solve for you as a practitioner, because if we solve for you, we win and you win.
Yeah. Every time someone's come to me and told me that they have the solution, or someone in my company says, we've devised this new thing, go out and see what it's like, they've never been successful.
Right.
And the reason is that you, as the practitioner, know what you need. You may not have thought through, this whole cloud issue and being able to get LVT
Right.
in the parking lot to work with us.
Yep.
That hasn't been thought through necessarily, but that's where we went when it came down to asking you, okay, we're in this store, we're looking at where your pain points are and why, and the big frustration is, well, I've got people that are pushing carts out the door. And as a result of that, or I've got guards who I'm spending a lot of money on, but they can't hear the alarms within the store.
Right.
So now we can send a text message to those guards.
I want to lock in on that point with guards. I can tell you from personal experience, having been at 3 of the major retailers, companies invest millions, in fact, hundreds of millions in guards. What I'm enthusiastic about with Eco EAS, as we're calling it, is you're now empowering those guards in a much more meaningful way. So rather than look across the whole store to figure out where the problem is, we're going to shine the spotlight right on it. And I think that's a big deal. And oh, by the way, if I don't attack this tag, the smart tag, and I don't alert this bubble, as we're calling it, and I simply push the cart out the door, now I got live view technologies that can pick up your signal, zoom in, understand the identification visually of who this person is, what vehicle they may be driving, what their license plate number is, and you begin to gather all this critical evidence that retailers so desperately need, but you're doing it with technology. You're not having to rely on people, because we all know stores don't report well, right? In the AP world, we only report a fraction of what's going on. If I can put it in the hands of technology and let it do that thinking for me, and let it do that evidentiary gathering for me, I'm ahead of the game. I'm 10 steps ahead of the game. And that goes back to what we opened up with, and that's this notion of an ecosystem. And I think more and more, and I think you made the point, solution providers can't do it on their own. They got to be interconnected, interwoven with other solutions. And it's refreshing to see that, WG's doing that. And other solution providers are as well, Live View Technologies, for example. And this is not a commercial for Live View Technologies nor WG. I'm just saying, you guys are playing in this space, and you're playing successfully in this space, and the benefactor is retailing.
Well, we approached Live View Technology through your contact with them. They were delighted to become a strategic partner. I don't think that's the case with all solution providers. But those solution providers that don't add to the ecosystem, they're going to be left behind.
They are. Yeah.
They're just flat going to be left behind, and they're going to be wondering how that happened.
That's
And it's
exactly
because everybody's very parochial about what their solution is.
Yep.
And instead of enhancing that solution, like with the guards, for example, you send a text message to the guard. The cloud can generate a log for the guard. The guard has to respond, or by policy is responding to that. You give him some work product. You have guards, you walk in the stores and they're docile because you can't measure their performance.
Right.
And
Right.
now you can measure their performance and leisure, and leverage that money that you've spent to do that.
Got another question for you. Where do you see this strategic partnership solution provider play? Where do you see it going in the next 5 years?
Well, I think,
I mean, we talked about ecosystem, but if we're sort of getting out there and blue skying, if you will, how do you think it changes? Does it change? I mean, we've talked about partnerships, collaboration, solution providers working collaboratively with retailers. We get that. That's on us now. It's coming to fruition. It's ready now from an eco EAS point of view. But let's get a little crazy. 5 years out, and none of us have a crystal ball, but where would you see it?
well, first of all, 5 years out, I think it would probably be better 3 years out, because as we then contact, solution providers and get them to agree and share information with us, then we'll be looking at all the big partners in the business, and it will all happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So 5 years out, you're talking about, the absence of being partnered, then you're just going to be left out in the cold.
Yeah. If you were to ask me that question, I think my response would align directly with yours. I would build on it a bit and say machine learning, this notion of artificial intelligence. How do you do that the right way? How do you do it that doesn't create customer friction, but improves life safety? I mean, you think about the world today and the active assailant events, that tragically we see all too often, and particularly the number of times it's happening in the grocery vertical. I think technology has a wonderful opportunity, I mean, now and going forward over the next 3 years, to really understand what can you do to complement that so that your customers have a safe place to shop and your associates have a safe place to work. And I believe more and more that's becoming C-suite dialogue. I mean, you think about profit's one thing. I'd put it on the level of importance. I would put life safety at the element of critical. And just think about it. I mean, the number of incidents, just the one more recently, tragically, that occurred in the high school in North Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. So for me, answering that question, if you were to throw it back at me, I would say we've got to leverage machine learning. We've got to leverage artificial intelligence in a way that enhances the customer experiences and makes it safer. And then the profits will follow.
Yeah.
Through the reduction of shrink. A lot's changed since COVID, right? I can tell you that AP teams today are doing more than they ever have to support their businesses. How do you see the AP solution providers helping assist them in that? Any additional thoughts beyond what we've shared?
Well, what I would say, the ideal situation, and maybe we work through the LPRC, and we get some group of solution providers in, everybody is just trying to solve problems. So then we get on a whiteboard and start brainstorming.
Yep.
Because that's how we actually decided to go and talk to the cloud through our smart tag, is there somebody, and I think it was you, said, well, why can't you do this? And we said, well, we don't know if we can, so let's check it out. But if we get in a room with people who are genuinely interested in being strategic partners, then we can start talking about how they affect the business,
Yeah.
how we can provide that information, and as a result, I think we'll come out with some great ideas.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
That will enable them to do it. I mean, you have an example of you have facial recognition. You now see that LVT gets the picture of the guy leaving the building. He gets the picture of the guy coming into the building. 2 days later, notifies the store management or LP, and said you got a bad actor in your building.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been, we're not been that far away from that for a long time,
Mhm.
but you haven't had the guy in the park. You haven't been able to prove that guy's a bad actor.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if you see him
Yep.
takes merchandise out to
Yep.
his car, you get his license plate number, you get his facial, and you can then next time he comes in, you can deter him or
Sure.
any number of things.
Yeah. I want to go back to your point on these conferences and groups like the Loss Prevention Research Council, who really supports this notion of let's get the retailers together, let's get the solution providers together, let's talk about common issues and threats to the business, be they safety or profit, and let's start ideating. Right? It's almost like climbing this ladder. One idea leads to another. You build on that idea. You get the professionals on the solution side and on the practitioner side together, and suddenly you begin to ideate. And you come out with some really wonderful examples of what can be done, like what we're doing here with WG and LiveView Technologies, where you said, Mike, I think we got something that's going to work in this EAS world. So you and I met, right? We were in some stores and we looked at it, and I'm like, what if we did this? And you said, oh, by the way, yeah, what if we did that? And here we are today. And I think we got to do more of that. There's got to be more of that, whether it's RELA, NRF, Apex, the LPRC, they'll work through Impact. I mean, Impact will have 500 people down there, and you're going to have a healthy mix of practitioners and solution providers,
Yeah.
all talking about common problems. And, look, it's funny. There was an executive that I used to work with, and somebody asked him the question, where do you see your business in 5 years? He goes, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you, I'm pretty sure we're still going to be selling groceries. So predicting the future is tough, right? If you and I had that ability, man,
Well, the
we'd
thing
be
about it is
sipping on
that you can predict the future with what you know now.
right.
If in 6 months or a year from now, if you've done some strategic planning with other solution providers, that prediction might be completely, subdued based on where you actually can go.
Yep. Yep.
That's really the beauty of this whole thing. I was at the LPRC last week and we were talking, and we started just brainstorming with them, just
Yeah.
us and them, and they know of, they identified 10 vendors that would want to do this with us.
Love it.
And what it does do is it gives a strategic advantage for those vendors to sell their product to.
Well, it's a win-win, isn't it? I mean, you're in the business of selling product. Stores are in the business of protection, whether it's people or assets, merchandising assets. And when you come together, both sides win. And I mean, that's what this is all about.
That's a relatively new concept.
Yep.
It really is.
It is. Yeah, but it's evolving, and it's evolving for the better.
Yeah.
Hey, always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.